Thank you so much for being here for today's topic, which is influence without authority. So something about me. I'm Shivany. I'm a woman in tech with a career spanning over 10 years. I've spent the majority of my career in the fintech payments tech space, and I'm currently a team lead of program management on the digital e-com side at the fashion retail CNA GmbH. I'm passionate about leadership, building communities and connections. I'm originally from India, and I've spent the last 7 years in Berlin with my partner and my 2-year-old daughter, who lights up our lives. The agenda for today will be as follows. We'll quickly talk about the objective of being influential. I'll run you through 5 habits that I practice to be influential, and we'll summarize the takeaways. So what does being influential mean to you? If you can think of someone who is influential at work, what words would you use to describe them? Unfortunately, the QR code is not showing up there, but give me a minute. Yeah, if you could go into that Slido link, please, and write down for me, what words would you use to describe someone who you think is influential at work? And look at that lovely word cloud. We've got thought leader, make things happen, inspirational, knowledgeable, charismatic, inspiring. So if you summarize, it sounds like being influential means that you can make an impact, that you can actually make change, and that is the objective of being influential. So a quick little story. A few years ago, when I was a TPM on a team, TPM stands for Technical Program Manager. When I was a TPM on a team, I noticed a resource risk. So we had a new program going to come up. It was called 3DS. For those who worked in the payment sector, you would know that that means 3D secure authentication. And it was a Europe-wide compliance directive and had a hard deadline. We needed members from 3 different teams to work on that initiative. And it needed analytical skills, the ability to identify risks, and a lot of passion. So we created a spike, asked our engineers to come up with different solutioning proposals. 2 weeks were up, the engineers had some great ideas, and it was now time to split the team or decide the team that would work on 3DS. The engineering leadership came up with the team structure, one team structure that would work on 3DS, and the other team structure that would work on other business-as-usual initiatives that we had. And guess what? A very competent engineer who led the spike and its entire research activity was left out of the 3DS team. As a TPM, I immediately noticed their crestfallen face, their silent struggle, and ultimately their decision to accept that team split. I had a quick chat with them after, and they said that if the company doesn't care about their passion and hard work, then they wouldn't care so much either. This was going downhill really fast. So I stepped in as a TPM without authority, practicing 5 habits to try to influence a change in decision. Habit number 1, assume good intentions. So an excellent parenting book I've read is called Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy. It advocates for the principle that everybody is good inside and encourages you to look at every conversation, challenge, interaction with goodwill and an intention to form a connection. Now, this is something I practice on a daily basis with my child and my partner, especially on those particularly difficult days. I have to remind myself that my child is good inside, she's having a difficult time, step back and validate her feelings, make her feel seen. What does assuming good intentions do for you at work? When you assume good intentions, you engage without bias, free from preconceived notions and judgment. You foster open and vulnerable conversation, and you cultivate a safe space where both spoken and heard word find validation. So how did I assume good intentions there? I set a meeting with the leadership, and I walked in with zero judgment, acknowledging that the leadership had no bias or didn't go into this team structure not caring about the team, but rather did whatever best they could to come up with a team structure that made sense. This immediately broke the ice and made the leadership nod their head in agreement and tell me just how difficult it was to come up with a team split that was cross-functional, had all the relevant skills to deliver a program of that scale. The floor was set for an open and vulnerable conversation. Habit 2, build trust. Show of hands here. How many of us are willing to be influenced by someone we don't trust at all? One. I thought it was going to be none. But thanks. None of us, most of us, are not willing to be influenced by someone we don't trust at all. The core of influence is trust. You cannot lead without it. Assuming good intentions is a great first step to building trust. But building trust needs more. Establishing yourself as trustworthy means your actions match your words. You put in the work and you're unafraid to admit uncertainty. You're also comfortable acknowledging when you don't have an answer. Another important facet of building trust is valuing transparent communication. Being forthright, bringing the right people in loop, all of this goes a long way in establishing trust in your words. So how did I build trust? As soon as I went in that conversation, I emphasized that I was here to offer some ideas and not to criticize. I also went in with solid research. I understood the ask of the initiative, just what scale it was at, what skills would be required to deliver it, and also how context on how the spike was executed and carried out. I also told the leadership that I was not privy to a lot of information that they had probably about the team structure, and my proposals were based off of my limited knowledge. The fact that I did solid research made the leadership have trust in what I was going to say. Habit 3, be data-driven. If we had a euro for the number of times we've heard data-driven in the past few years, all of us as human beings have instincts that we work with to make choices. What we need to back this instinct up and to level up our influential capabilities is data. Deep dives, comparisons, historical data, any kind of research you do substantiates your instincts and operates strongly in your favor. Listening to your instinct and backing it up with data will make your voice very credible. So how many of you, again, show of hands please, how many of you are toddler parents here? I'm one. Yeah. So if you're a toddler parent, you've done this little thing where you offer 2 choices to your toddler to make them feel in control, but also those choices steer them in the direction that you want to take. Let's use that strategy here. Am I comparing senior leadership to irrational toddlers? Absolutely not. What I did with that data that I had is that I prepared 2 alternatives to this team structure that was already presented. Both of them had advantages and disadvantages that I highlighted, as well as catered to the needs of the initiative. What I also accounted for was the interest from all the team members, their skill sets, and basically their passion and where they wanted to go. Presenting these alternatives to the leadership took away the cognitive load off them because they wanted to start work as soon as possible and made them just a little bit easier to be influenced. Habit number 4, have a growth mindset. What does a growth mindset mean to you? Does anybody want to take a shot at that? What does a growth mindset mean to you? Sorry? That you're never done learning. Amazing. Anything else? To me, a growth mindset means that you accept success and failure, learning and evolving from both. Each experience adds to your understanding, broadening your perspective. Toxic positivity is not the ask here. Far from it. What it just means is that you accept ebbs and flows and don't let setbacks crush you. After all, the power to influence comes from accepting the present state and embracing the possibilities of the future. All this sounds great, but how do you apply this in real life? What I did with the growth mindset there in that situation is that as soon as I presented my proposals, I opened up the floor to comments, suggestions, criticism. I made it a point to actively listen and update the proposal with any valid suggestions. I also parked ideas that didn't necessarily fit in the current conversation, but ensured they weren't dismissed. I also proposed review sessions to ensure that if the team structures were considered, they would be carefully reviewed and monitored. What this did was put the leadership back in control because they had the freedom to express their views, as well as they had the faith that everything we did was going to be monitored and reviewed and ensured that it went well. Final, habit number 5, recognize value. Now, this is my favorite one, and probably the one I aspire to keep improving on. Recognizing value in people and in situations. We often get so caught up in this rat race of work and life, we forget to appreciate the people who are the pieces of that jigsaw puzzle, the ones that let you reap the rewards. Especially in leadership positions, it's crucial to appreciate and acknowledge the amazing teams that do that work for you. Verbal and written appreciation, professional development opportunities, promotions, advancements. These are just one of the many ways that you can be an empathetic and charismatic leader, keeping their team motivated and engaged. Also sounds great, but how do you apply that? What I did in this situation is I understood what the team's objectives were, what the objectives of the team members were, provided opportunities in the new team structures for professional development, as well as facilitated the achievement of their goals. I also linked the objectives of the team members to the overarching objectives of the organization and showed the leadership how mutual benefits could be achieved for everyone involved. Showing the leadership what was in it for them was the final cherry on the cake to get them to be influenced. Remember, show them what's in it for them. What happened after? One of my proposals was accepted. Yay! It met all the needs of the initiative and had minimal disadvantages. It also made for a motivated and engaged team more likely to succeed. Also, a great personal success story for influencing without authority. So to quickly summarize our takeaways, habits that make you influential, assume good intentions, build trust, be data-driven, have a growth mindset, and recognize value. Thank you so much for this, and I hope that you can take something of this and make it your own.